Yeah, so I'm Lucas da Silva, and I work to HelloFresh, which is a company here in Berlin. You can follow me on Twitter if you like to read some not so much cool stuff. But anyways, um, yeah, so it's good to be here in the second edition of the meetup, of the accessibility meetup in Berlin. First, I would like to thank you, the organizers, and the sponsor, the Project A, because it's really awesome to have this kind of meetup, and it's really nice to see like a lot of people interested in this topic. So the goals of my talk is to introduce the web accessibility principles, how we break them, and by the end of each principle, we're gonna ask some questions about how we can make sure that we don't break these principles. So uh, web accessibility means that we should make the web available to as many people as possible. I mean, web accessibility has a lot of meanings, but I think the goal is this. In what is good for, like, why we should care about the web accessibility? Well, it's good for humans because we can improve their experience and how they interact with our products. It's good for business because we can reach more people, and for public relations to avoid lawsuits and bad press. One thing that is extremely important to note before we start talking about disabilities is that disability is not a permanent thing. There's, for instance, Microsoft has this design toolkit, inclusive design toolkit, that they categorize the disabilities in three spectrums: that is permanent, temporary, and situational. In fact, a few days ago, I created a blog post asking a question if I could buy a mouse without a mouse in Amazon.com. Yeah, and I could buy a mouse without a mouse just using the keyboard in the in the website. I can share the link afterwards. So now let's talk about the principles. POR stands for perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. And those are the four principles of web accessibility, and they are defined in the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines version 2, which is the foundation to necessary to everyone to use and access the web content itself. So the first principle, perceivable. Information and user interface components must be presentable to users in ways they can perceive. So we must think about the readability of the text. Let's say, like the background and the color, we must take care about the nature of these two colors. We should always provide text alternatives for all the medias, not just for images, but for videos like captions. The content relationship, like the structure of your web page, is really important. Not relying on a single sense, like I said about the text thing, just not relying colors. Like if you have a graph, for instance, try not just to have this graph using colors, tries to use like shapes and other things as well to differentiate your data. And also, yeah, not relying on just in background and color contrast and stuff. So I'm gonna show some examples here, and yeah, so don't sue me if there's some company here. So I have this the CNN website open in the mobile view, and the icons for share, like this news, they don't have alternative text. So if I'm using a screen reader, for instance, the screen reader is gonna inform me that this is just a link. So I don't know what is the link is for. Like I don't know what exactly is the link. So this example here violates the guideline 1.1, that is provide text alternatives from the perceivable principle. Another one related to text alternatives. This is a very common one in the web in general, that the image tag doesn't have any alternate out attribute. So if I'm using the screen reader, you just read the source of the image. So it's gonna read like slash emg slash diagram.svg. So I cannot picture what is this image just for the information. So in this case, like when you want to provide like a image just for presentation purpose, we can just put a empty auto attribute with an empty string, so that the screen reader is gonna treat that as a presentation image, not like a it's not gonna try to read the source of the image itself. And you should always provide the alternative text with meaningful content. Like, try to be meaningful in your content of the attribute. Facebook, for instance, they use machine learning to read your image and to provide a meaningful text alternative. So, like in this image, Facebook algorithm tries to read the image and says the image may contain tree, plant, grass, outdoor nature, and water. In this case, some people complain that we shouldn't put like image again, because the screen reader is gonna read like image and then image again. Image may contain. So yeah, but that's better than nothing, I think. So ask yourself, think about blind, deaf, low vision, colorblind users. Are they able to perceive that component? In this principle, we have a really nice tool that is called Funkify, but Vladimir is going to show later, so I'm going to leave for that. Moving on to the second principle, we have the operable. User components and navigation through the website must be operable. So the keyboard accessibility is very important. Again, my blog post about can I buy a mouse without a mouse. Providing user enough time to digest the content. Let's say if you have like a carousel in your home page, which have some meaningful information, try to give some time, not just like to keep skipping the slides. No blinking and flashing stuff. Try to not do aggressive animations and things that maybe can cause some strange behaviors. Predictable and comprehensible navigation. Like your navigation through the website must follow like a logical flow. Like if you have tab components and a list, if you're using the keyboard, try to make sure that the user can go through your website with a logical flow, not surprising flows like I'm tapping the website and then suddenly I go to the footer because there's like no focus in some elements. In the Vox website, in the header, I have all those links, and if I try to access the more with the keyboard, I cannot do that. I can go to the more, but I cannot trigger the more. Like in this GIF, I can only trigger with the mouse. So this example violates the guideline 2.1, the keyboard accessible from the operable principle. In the Square website, they have those true select components that are custom components, and they are not designed for these components. They are not designed with accessibility in mind, these specific ones, So I cannot access them with the keyboard again. If I go tap into the website, tap in navigation, there's no way for me to access those components. And again, this example violates the guideline 2.1 keyboard accessible for the operable principle. Project J though has a really nice website, and you can go through the website using the keyboard, and it's a really good example of how we must follow like the patterns and the principles. Again, ask yourself, think about all the human interface devices, keyboard, screen readers, touch screen devices, and many more. Is there any action that a user cannot perform with one of those? So the third principle, the understandable one, the information, the operation of user interface must be understandable. Here we have a lot of work from copywriters and designers, and we should think about the overcomplicated language. Try to provide like easy to read text when you can. Provide the content language in the, let's say, in the HTML element. Try to provide the content language there. So if a screen reader user is accessing your website, the screen reader can read the content of your website in a proper language. Try not reinventing the wheel, like this query example before. They try to do a select component and they didn't think about accessibility. If they use like the select from the HTML, they would have a accessible component there. For forms, always provide labels with meaningful content again, and try to try to make sure that user knows which input is required, which is optional. So in this example, in the Welp sign up page, even though the sign up is not that big, like the form is not that big, they don't provide labels. They do provide labels for screen readers though, is hidden, so that's okay. But imagine if this form is bigger, and if I'm typing, like I'm filling this form, in the middle of the process, maybe like the name, I would know that's my name, okay. But imagine if there's a lot of fields there, I don't know which input is which. Like I don't know what I'm doing in this form. So like provide a label for the form is not just help for permanent disabilities, for like a temporary one. Maybe I'm distracted. I just fill in this form, but somehow someone asked me something, then I stopped. Then when I went back, I don't know what I'm doing. So if I have labels, that would be much easier. So in this example, is violating the guideline 3.3 input assistance from the understandable principle. Sorry. Now, if you take a look in the type form sign up page, they do provide labels, which is good, and they do provide as well some helpful placeholders. So I have some examples of what I should type in that form. And also, if you look in the main button, it says explicitly what the action is going to do, like create my free account. The form itself is very, very helpful. I can do like what I need to do without thinking about what I need to do. So ask yourself, think about our users. Is the content written in a clear way? Are interactions easy to understand? Okay, so last but not least, the robust principle. The content should remain accessible even though assistive technologies and user agents evolve. So this one is more about like, this one I would say that is more the development side of those principles, even though all of them have development required development skills for complying with that. But this one is very focused on that. So we should think about maximizing the compatibility of our website. Like I need to make sure that my website works for all the browsers, not just for Chrome, for instance. The responsibility, we need to make sure that our website adapts to different screens and different devices as well. And we should always respecting the web standards, like I showed that example from Square, that they were using like a custom component and they were not making that component accessible because they were not using like role attributes, for instance. Like in the past, if you want to create a component or something, like a button, for instance, you probably would create that with a div or an input, and they are not semantic. They don't have like meaningful. And for instance, a screen reader cannot understand cannot provide like information for the user what the component, how the component should behave, how should I use the component. But now we have like semantic components, semantic elements, like we have the button element, we have the article element. But if for some reason you need to create like a custom component, like Square did in that example, try not use like the role attributes. Like if I have a select, try to use like a proper role for that. If for some reason I need to create a custom button that is not actually using the button element, try to provide the role button. But remember to always give the preference to the HTML element itself, not try to reinvent the wheel, like I said in a few slides back. So ask yourself, think about your code. Are you respecting best practices and web semantics? Is there really a div? Or it should be a button, maybe? The thing is that temporary or not, we do all have users with disabilities. For instance, the A11y website, which is a really good website, they do have a lot of contents about web accessibility there. They did this survey, I think it was last year or something, that shows that the most problematic items regarding web accessibility are there are problems that is easy and very basic to fix. So, for instance, lack of alternative text, too many links. What else have? Flash content like animations. So those things are really easy to fix, and matters. If you start slow fixing, you can make the web more accessible. But who is responsible for this? Everyone is responsible for this. Developers, designers, copywriters, product owners, everyone should be aware and should make the web more accessible. So to summarize what I said before, the POR, the perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust principles. Basically, we can say that the user must perceive, operate, and understand the web. And for the user, and it doesn't matter like if the user has disabilities or not, it doesn't matter what device the user is using, your website must be robust, so we can comply with all those principles and follow and create like a really great experience for the user. And to finish my talk, I would like to present this project. As you saw today, it's really easy to break the accessibility principles. And my friend Jessica and I created this project called Issues, which is a project from the Accessibility Rocks, which is a group about accessibility. We want to push for the importance of web accessibility. And the issues project is a showcase of, let's say, bad practices on the web. And we have some companies that have very bad experience, so we try to categorize each issue with one principle. Let's say this one from CNN again is not non-perceivable. So if you go to A11y.rocks, and yeah, it's an open source project. Everyone should could go there and contribute somehow. And yeah, we are accepting suggestion how to make this better. And yes, and if you want to learn more about what I said, you can go to those links. They are really, really good. And yeah, thank you.